This episode is brought to you by Intuit, the technology platform that brings financial confidence with products like TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks, and MailChimp. You might have learned the recorder in school, but probably not how to navigate the financial world. Luckily, Intuit's on a mission to help with the free Intuit for Education program. It provides students with the lessons to learn essential skills, like how to build credit, file taxes, and budget. Check out their free resources at intuit.com/education.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/MBO. Terms and conditions apply.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them and outside them. Fight, 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 fight. What do you say, man?
Thing to do isn't to punch them, isn't to talk to them. There's only one way you get respect, and that's by looking somebody in the eye for 60 minutes.
It was a great game for college football.
And Notre Dame is going to go for 2 points. They're going to try to win it. Steenberg is going back to throw. He throws the end zone. It's caught by Keating. Notre Dame is taking the lead over Purdue.
The one thing about coaching, you pick your battles. You pick them and you do them for the right reasons. You fight for what you think is right, and you fight basically for the kids, for the players on your team, to make sure they have everything that you can put in front of them to be successful.
Today's episode of Kileleni to the Summit is with Tommy Tuberville, a longtime college coach, now U.S. Senator from Alabama. Patrick, I always say that if you took coaches and put them in charge of our government, that we would just figure a way out to make this all better. And Coach Tuberville is a great step forward in that regard.
Yeah, he's obviously every coach has a mission. Every coach defines his own goals for himself, for his teams, sets those goals. And Tommy Tuberville achieved a lot in his coaching years, especially at Auburn, where most people remember him. And then he moved into the U.S. Senate and has taken on, a real challenging role there. And I got to know him through a fellow Notre Dame buddy, a guy named Mike Whalen, who has done a lot of things for our military worldwide to help them in different ways while they're still serving and after service. And Tommy went with Mike in one of his overseas tours, and I got to know Tommy through Mike Whalen. He kind of takes on the challenges. He's a very Southern gentleman, speaks, very fluidly, but he knows what his goals are and what he wants to do. And I feel very fortunate that I got to know Tommy and that he was able to join us and join you on this podcast to talk a little bit about his career and his belief in football and in coaching.
Patrick and I will be back at the end of the episode to share our Winning Edge takeaways. And here's Patrick's conversation with Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator from Alabama. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes.
Welcome, friends. This is Patrick Steenberg, host of your podcast, Back in 1996, I had an idea, an inspiration really, to create the Global Football Organization. And that's allowed me to travel to 6 different continents around the world to meet and travel and be around some incredible people. Today, I want to introduce you to Tommy Tuberville, one of the great college coaches of all time.
Coach, where do I find you today?
I am in Auburn, Alabama. I moved back here after I retired from coaching a few years ago and lived here most of the last 25 years, Patrick. I've actually got a business here, and both my sons graduated Auburn University. And, wherever your kids are raised and they live, that's pretty much where you're going to live.
That's a good place to call home then.
It's a great place.
I was reading more about you and saw you grew up in Camden, Arkansas, and went to Harmony Grove High School there, and then on to Southwestern Arkansas University. Tell me something about your childhood days, maybe your high school days. Was there any big mentors, people who really had a powerful influence in your life that, as you look back now, Tommy?
Well, I grew up a military brat. My dad, at age 18, landed at Normandy and drove a tank all the way across Europe and won 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He was a hero at age 18 and 19, and I couldn't even get my kids out of bed at 18 and 19. And being a military brat, you grew up under a lot of discipline, and I love sports. My dad was connected with officiating basketball and football games, and so I got into sports and really enjoyed it. My mentor over the years were my coaches. I really looked up to guys like Tom Landry at the Dallas Cowboys at the time, and that's how I kind of got into sport. I got out of coaching high school in the state of Arkansas for a few years. Then I got into college coaching and stayed there for the next, 35, 36 years.
Yeah, a really successful turn of events. Had you thought about being a coach when you were like in high school or so?
I guess I hung out with my coaches in high school, and they were pretty much my best friends. We either worked out or played basketball, and I was around my coaches more than I was my family. My mom and dad, they worked, and I liked what they did. I enjoy people. I'm a people person. I love to travel. I love to be around and be very competitive. Somebody asked me one time, "What made you get into coaching?" You don't want to grow up. That's all you did. If you get into coaching, you don't want to give up your high school and college sporting careers. So you just extend it by getting into coaching and staying around sports and competing in whatever sport you want to coach.
Yeah, that's a great way, because you're playing a game and you're coaching young men and developing them as students, as athletes, and as men. Having had your father in the military growing up, that you mentioned discipline. Talk a little more about that, Tommy, how that became a part of your life.
When he got out of the military in World War II, he stayed in the military, actually stayed all the way to the end of his life. He was actually on active duty on a training mission at age 53 and had a massive heart attack. But, just being around him and I used to go down where he was part of the military and around a lot of those guys and saw the discipline, the training, the marching, the things that you did to be a military person. So you are what you grow up as. And, I used to wear the Army fatigues and all those as a little guy growing up. And so being around coaches and military, I kind of learned my values in life about handle yourself, how to handle other people, do things the right way. And I tell you, military is a great addition to our country. It's not, it's obviously now voluntary, but when I turned 18 in 1972, I barely missed Vietnam. And
Right.
and we had a draft number that year, but that was the year the draft ended. That's been a long time ago. And so I missed the military part, but the coaching part and being around coaches, I decided to get into coaching and stay that course. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing something different now. I'm kind of giving back and doing public service, or trying to, because I never was in the military. But that's one thing I miss in life, is not ever being in the military.
Yeah, there was that period of time, right after Vietnam, that it wasn't real popular to be in it. But now, fortunately, our country, I think, prides itself in our military men and women. How about some of you grew up and kind of went, I guess, somewhat of a typical track where you're a high school coach and then assistant coach at various stops, and then had some really successful head coaching times at Ole Miss and at Auburn and at Cincinnati and Texas Tech. How about a couple adversities, Tommy, within there? I mean, you don't just go to being 13-0 and coach of the year like you did at Auburn that year. Tell me about some of the tough times you had to overcome.
Oh, you got tough times every day in coaching. Because you got to remember now, you're dealing with 120, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and it's never the same day. Everybody's got problems. All the kids, you're basically their father. They're away from home for the first time, and so you try to give them guidance. And a lot of times it's the first father they've ever had. In this country, unfortunately, now 50% of the kids have one or no parent. And coaches are mentors. They're kind of their mothers or fathers away from home, and they learn as much now from the coaches that they deal with, whether it's assistant coaches or head coaches. So it's a great service. Let me tell you, I would hate to see this country if we didn't have team sports and have good coaches and people that could mentor these young kids. We'd have a lot more kids on the streets. But you go through tough times where kids' parents maybe get killed in a car wreck or die of cancer, or a brother or sister dies. I went through some trying times, as all coaches do, when you fight administration. They try to tell you what to do, and they think they know more about what you know than anything else in terms of the coaching part. And so you have to fight your battles. But the one thing about coaching, you pick your battles. You pick them, and you do them for the right reasons. You fight for what you think is right, and you fight basically for the kids, for the players on your team, to make sure they have everything that you can put in front of them to be successful in their 4 years they're there. I used to tell them, you get a degree, you're going to have to do that. You've got to go to class. I'm going to pay for it. That's one thing you can do. If you're going to be a starter, you're going to do that. But the one thing you're going to do while you're here, coach, or playing for me, is you're going to learn self-responsibility, how to take care of yourself, how to wash your clothes, get up on time, pay your bills, do things as an adult growing up. So when you leave, nobody is going to have to take care of you. You can take care of yourself. So I think that's really important about coaching.
Yeah, it's funny when the common fan, I think, on the outside thinks about coaches and their adversities. They probably think about, oh, you lost this close game, or you didn't get invited to this bowl game you thought. They don't think about the day-to-day adversity, like you said, dealing with 19 to 22-year-old young men. That's the reality of coaching, isn't it?
That's exactly right. It's never a dull moment, because they're going to have their problems at home. They're on campus. They're going to obviously at some point going to struggle academically. They're going to have trouble doing things to make things right. They got to stand in those lines of earning themselves a possibility of being a starter. And then you've got to keep that starting position. I tell you, it's a huge challenge. It's hard. I tell people this: you don't really realize what kids go through to play college athletes, men and women, in this day and time. It is a 365-day-a-year job. It's hard work, the lifting, running, the preparation, mental, physical. It is a taxing deal. But again, it's really taken place of a lot of things, especially military, for a lot of these men and women coming out. They're not going through the military, but this is a kind of a substitute, for learning things past high school and past parents. They get out on their own for the first time, but you still have a direction and a meaning of what you've got to learn to become a successful American citizen down the line.
Yeah, and you had a lot of success with young men on the field. I saw where you had 19 players drafted into the NFL. Maybe talk about a couple of those young men who were real leaders, maybe even off the field, but guys who took leadership roles that helped them develop into future NFL players.
As an assistant and as a head coach, and that was just as a head coach, I had 19 that were drafted. But when I was at Miami, I had a lot of players that I coached. Ray Lewis was one that he came, and you never think he was going to be a great football player, and ended up being one of the greatest of all times, going through NFL and Hall of Fame. But he had a big heart. And I tell people this, that, if you could go and tell the type of heart and the work ethic a young man would have, the 4 years you're going to have them, if you could look inside their chest and be able to tell that, you wouldn't lose many games. But unfortunately, you can't do that. You've got to kind of guess. You got to, I guess, play God, so to speak, and kind of guess what he's going to look like and be like in 4 or 5 years. And that's all the coaches across the country's main objective, is to try to figure out, are they going to work? Are they going to take advantage of what this country gives you? A chance for an education, a chance to become what you want to be. All it takes is hard work and perseverance. And so if you do that, so I had him, I had Dwayne Johnson, who's the Rock. He played for me at Miami. He turned out pretty successful. But a couple of guys at Auburn that I coached were Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams, number 2 and number 4 pick in the draft back in 2004. These two young men are having great careers just past playing. They're both coaching. And then I had Deuce McAllister at Ole Miss. But I had a lot of player, even the hundreds of kids that don't go to the NFL. I mean, you'd give them the shirt off your back because of what they did and how they did it and what they've achieved, not just while they're on campus, but now what they've achieved after getting out, because of what they learned, not from me, but from the whole experience of being a college athlete.
That classroom of being a college athlete, and especially a football player. And I've talked to a lot of folks, a lot of parents, about the team aspect of football. There's no other game like it, where you got 11 people trying to move the ball one way and 11 trying to stop them from going. And within 3 to 4 seconds, total mayhem ensues, and you adjust as it goes. And it happens, 150 times a game. So it's all that going on. What about some of your teams, Tommy, that may have overachieved? You mentioned some of the great players, but sometimes the teams coaches remember are the ones who maybe weren't quite as talented, but achieved over and above their talent level.
Yeah, 1997 at Miami, we only had like 55 on scholarship. They'd been handed the second worst probation period in sanctions after SMU, the death penalty, back in 1995. And we only had 55 players. We ended up winning 8 games and beating Randy Moss and Chad Pennington in the Motor City Bowl in Detroit that year. And we weren't supposed to win 1 or 2 games. But, that's the reason I really love coaching. It's the underdog in these kids that really stand out. I mean, you got great players, and I was around a lot of great players that natural ability, but it's the ones that took true advantage of everything that they could do. And again, you'd hate to see this country without team sports. I was president of the American Football Coach Association about 4 years ago. Under Grant Taft, I had 15,000 members, and I went to all these concussion meetings and things that people are just kind of throwing darts at football. And if you gave a lot of the doctors and parents and a lot of lawyers across the country, they would stop football today because they say it's too physical. But let me tell you something. It is a physical sport, and there are injuries. But the trade-off of what we get, thousands and thousands of kids, of what they learn and pick up and take with them through life after the game of football, is something that's irreplaceable. So, we're being attacked right now. We just need to make sure we keep this game of football. We need to make it safe. We need to coach safe. We need to make these kids understand it is a very physical sport. Keep the head out of it, just because our head is very valuable, obviously, to us.
As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/MBO. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, the game has evolved and developed to where coaches are being a lot smarter. The AFCA is doing a great job in leading the way towards that. A good friend of mine, Coach Chris Creighton at Eastern Michigan now, he wrote a great letter a few years back. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's a letter to football moms. And that's exactly what he talks about, is the value of the sport to the young men as opposed to the risk of injuries. Did you happen to see that, Tom?
Yeah, I've seen it. I know Chris, and I've dealt with a lot of letters like that. Now I got a lot of letters being the president from parents that they just didn't understand why it was so important. As Chris put it in his letter, as I just said a few minutes ago, the trade-off is phenomenal for what kids would get out of it. And again, unfortunately, we do have deaths, we do have injuries. It is a physical sport, but it's something that is so hard to replace in life. The things that kids learn and they get out of the being give out, tired, have pushed themselves to the end. There's not enough things that we have in this country, and again, it really takes place of a lot of parents. And takes a lot of the place of the military. A lot of these kids do not go to the military like they used to.
Yeah, there's no other way to emulate that kind of thing. And I know you went over on the coaches tour. We got to meet each other through Mike Whalen, a mutual friend, and he ran those coaches tours. Tell me a little bit about that. I think it was 2008. You went overseas, went downrange, and visited with a lot of our military with some other coaches.
Yeah, I actually went twice. Went 2008 and then 2009, and had a great time. We went to, we flew on a KC-135 refueler. It was built in 1961. I don't know how many tens of thousands of miles we traveled. We're going about a week and a half, and we went through Bahrain and Qatar, and went to Iraq and Baghdad, and stayed in one of Saddam's palaces. His two boys they call the hunting and fishing lodge, and went to Djibouti, Africa, Istanbul, Turkey. We just went everywhere, but just flying around, about 4 or 5 coaches, going meeting the troops at the bases and talking to them. This was back during the Iraqi war, and it was going pretty hard back then. And we appreciate President Bush and President Obama giving us the opportunity to do that. But hopefully we put smiles on faces of troops, and I run into them now here in the States now. After gone 10, 12 years ago, I'll run into somebody. Coach, I met you at Bahrain, in the Emirates 10, 12 years ago. We appreciate you coming over. It was a great time. We went to a carrier and stayed a night and watched how those Marines loaded on and off of these big troop carriers. It was a great deal, not just for the troops, I don't think, but it was for me to go over to see kids that were the same age as the ones I was coaching over there in harm's way. And I'd go back and talk to our players and show them clips and videos of what we did. And I'd always say, you're over here complaining about the food in the cafeteria, and look what these young men and women your age are over there doing right now. You got it pretty good over here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You could easily relate to those young men because they're just like you said, the players that you had when you came back. Did your guys understand that, your players? Were they able to comprehend what was going on there and the sacrifices those young men were putting forth overseas?
I think they do to some degree. When you're 18 to 22 years old, I mean, life is kind of a blur for you because everything's fun and you really don't have any stress on your life. They think they do, but they really don't. They don't understand. They're not out paying taxes yet and working for Uncle Sam and raising a family and going through the problems, but the good times also raising family now. But a lot of our kids, they I think they understood. We had some in ROTC, so they obviously understood it.
Yeah, I think you bringing that message back home was probably real important to helping them. So you've turned your passion for football and your successes there, and now you're looking to move towards public service, so working to be the next senator for the state of Alabama. What motivated you to want to do that, Tommy?
I guess all my life, Patrick, even coaching, I've always had that empty feeling of not giving back to the greatest country on the face of the earth, which is the United States of America. And missed the military because, as you said, missed it because a year or two of Vietnam. And then I get into coaching, do that for 35 years. But I've always had that empty feeling. I told my wife about 10 years ago, when I get out, I'm going to do something. I'm going to serve somehow. Well, moving back to Alabama, thought about running for governor. And then we got a situation now where I feel like I can win this Senate position. It's a U.S. Senate position. You go to obviously go to D.C. There's only 100 U.S. senators. Yep. And I want to get back. If I didn't think I was the best person for this job, I wouldn't do it. But I've had a job. I know what's going on in education. I've been in homes all across the country, rich, poor, middle class. I've been in businesses. I see how strong this country is in some places and how weak it is in the others. We got a bunch of career politicians that quit listening to the American taxpayers years ago, and they're about to give this country away. And I'm going to help. I've been given the opportunity to go around all of the state many times in my life, even before campaigning. Now I've been running for about a year. I've been endorsed by President Donald Trump. He's on my team now. And I got a great opportunity to win this July the 14th as the primary runoff. I now won the primary, but I didn't have enough votes not to have the runoff. And then the regular election is in November. But I want to get back. This country, we kind of lost sight of we the people. And that's what our Constitution, first three words, we the people. And for some reason, our politicians in Washington, they forgot about the people. It's about them instead of the people. And I want to go help people of this state in Alabama and then go up and help President Trump continue to make this country great.
Well, it's obvious, Coach, through your career and things you've won there that you know how to succeed, know how to win, know how to get up every morning and go to work. What drives Tommy Tuberville? What, throughout your life, what gets you going every morning? Said, I got to go do something.
I've never had a bad day in my life because I remember and I understand how fortunate when you're born in this country. I don't care if you're rich or poor. If you're born in this country, you get the lottery. And I told myself a long time ago, I'm going to take advantage of every day I'm on the face of the earth. Now, I've been fortunate. I've had success in coaching. Financially, my family and I are in good shape. The money I'm going to make when I go to Washington, D.C., I'm going to give back to the veterans of the state of Alabama. I truly believe in veterans. I'm not taking a salary. I think this should be a voluntary job to serve your country. And so I love it. I really do. And we're having problems right now in a lot of areas. We got a lot of division, but even with all the problems that we're having, even the pandemic that we got going on right now, this is still much better than any other place on the face of the earth. And I want to be a part of bringing it and keeping this thing as strong as we possibly can and hand it off to the next generation.
Or we must have gone to different schools together, Tommy, because that talk about winning the lottery, I've had the blessing to travel to 28 countries now with football teams from a lot of small colleges, some bigger colleges, and high schools. And wherever you go, that's what I tell these young men. I said, look around you. There's some amazing things, amazing people everywhere in the globe. But you were born in America. You hit the lottery right at that moment.
Exactly. And I don't think enough people understand that. You should have to go do a little mission work or whatever overseas to some of these places. And it's really sad how they live. And that's the reason, if the stronger we are in this country, the more we can help other countries. And I think that the American taxpayers have done a great job of that over the years, because it's the taxpayers of this country that have paved the way for this country to have the success that we've had.
Yeah, no doubt. Tommy, how about for a youngster that's out there trying to figure out, why should I get up and go get it today? How about a couple words of encouragement?
This
Tommy
country
Tuberville
gives you every opportunity, but that's the only thing it gives you. It owes you one thing when you're born in this country, an opportunity. If you'll take advantage of it, if you'll set a goal, a GPS to a goal that you want to achieve, you can do it. I was a young, skinny kid from Arkansas, that very average athlete. I played. I had a great time around friends in high school and college. I was very fortunate. I was on some very great coaching staffs with great people, and then was become a head coach and did all that. And after 40 years now, I'm on the verge of becoming a U.S. United States Senator. And this country gives you an opportunity to do what you want. You go earn it. You go earn it. Nobody's going to give it to you. It's those that have work ethic, wisdom, not you don't have to be brilliant. Just have wisdom, common sense, and the work ethic towards that goal, and you can achieve anything you want in this country. That's what this country owes you, an opportunity.
Coach Tuberville, thank you, sir. I'm ready to go work out.
Let's go do it.
Let's go. All right, Tommy Tuberville, thanks a lot for joining me. And if you enjoy this podcast, be sure to share it with your friends. Let's go, Tommy.
God bless.
Patrick, another impactful conversation. A lot here to take away, but we boil it down here to a few. What were your takeaways from this episode?
You know, I really enjoyed talking with Tommy and hearing his thoughts on so many different subjects. And one thing that came strongly through is that he embraces the adversity and the challenges, and that coaches need to embrace those. You don't shirk from those. You don't run from them when, you don't hide on a third and long, right? Somebody's got to make a play. Somebody's got to call the play. Somebody's got to have the right personnel on the field. And that's what Coach Tuberville deals with in his life every day as a coach and now as a U.S. Senator, to take on the challenge. And coaches have to understand that and understand that's part of their journey. It leads to growth and success if you manage that effectively. And Coach Tuberville really puts that out there. The second takeaway I would say is focus on mentorship and character development. Coaches have such a big role these days as mentors, as fathers, as uncles, as all these men figures to the young men they're coaching. It's not just coaching on the field. So they've got to prioritize their own responsibility and discipline and resilience in order so that they can help the players on and off the field. Those are key developmental pieces of the young man who are football players at that time. He also talks a lot, and we'll hear this, I think, with every coach, the value of teamwork. He shared a story of a team that overachieved despite its limitations, emphasized the power of teamwork, the determination, how that all works, the work ethic. And I think everybody listening to this has gone through those days and those weeks and those years where you've had teams that work well together and you accomplish far more than you ever could have without that. And Tommy Tuberville understands that and preaches that every day.
I continue to be excited and honored that we're able to bring this level of guest to the podcast through the conversations you've had here in the past. And I look forward to another week next week, Patrick, on Kileleni to the Summit. Be sure to check out our partner Global Football at globalfootball.com. And for your fundraising needs, check out Vertical Raise at verticalraise.com, an innovative platform which we'll be sharing more about here on the podcast. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.